This is Home After Ambition, the podcast for women who've conquered the boardroom and embraced motherhood on their own terms. Explore what happens when boarding passes turn into bedtime stories and how to keep the ambition alive. Your host, linguist and executive leader, Apple Fox, shares honest reflections about leadership, motherhood, and becoming. Because ambition doesn't end. It evolves.
When you become a mother, something shifts in you. Something primal. Something strong. You find a strength you never knew existed. You discover a fierce protectiveness, one that comes from deep within. It's like a lioness protecting her cub, guarding them with everything she has. You become aware of how much you are willing to fight for your child, for their well-being, for their comfort, for their sense of security. And that strength doesn't always show up in the way you might expect. It shows up in the little moments. In the moments where your instincts simply kick in. It's the small things. The seemingly insignificant moments. But they aren't insignificant to you. Because in that moment, your lioness heart roars. Welcome back to Home After Ambition. This episode is a bit of a reflection on something that may seem simple, but is so deep when you experience it firsthand. I'm so glad you're here today so that we can explore together the shift in a woman's character when she becomes a mother. Today I want to share with you two stories that really captured that shift in my character. Two moments that really made me realize how motherhood changes you at the core. So let me start with the restaurant experience. It's funny now looking back, but at the time it felt like a defining moment for me. My child, like many children, had a fear of certain things. Big clowns, large masks, huge Christmas decorations. It's just typical childhood fear, right? One day we went to a small restaurant in our town. It had decorated for Christmas. Reindeers, rats, and two large white bears. My child had been talking about how scared they were of the bears. And I could see it in their eyes. The fear. But I'm not the one to let fear control us. So I decided to take a step. Encourage my child to face their fear. I said, let's walk over to the bear together. I'll be right next to you. We walked over slowly, taking our time. I wanted my child to feel comfortable, to feel safe with me by their side. And then this happened. The waiter came over looking upset and said, keep your child next to you. There's a sign on the table. I get it. The restaurant has rules. Children aren't supposed to run around. And I respect that. But this was different. My child wasn't running. They weren't being disruptive. They were simply approaching the bear slowly, with my encouragement, right next to me. But the waiter didn't see it that way, although the restaurant wasn't crowded at all. And in that moment, I felt a surge of anger, a protective instinct. I wasn't going to let this slide. So what did I do? I left. I didn't even drink my coffee. I asked for the bill and I walked out. I never returned to that restaurant. Because in that moment, I realized something about myself. Motherhood had awakened a fierce protector inside me. The lioness instinct. I wasn't going to let anyone make my child feel small, especially not when they were trying to be brave. Motherhood shifts you in ways you can't always predict. You go from being a woman, trying to navigate her career and personal life, to becoming someone who would fiercely protect her child, even in the most unexpected situations. Before becoming a mother, I might have been more passive. I might have let things slide. But once you step into that role, you begin to feel this shift in your character. You don't just passively go along with things anymore. You start to see your child's needs with an entirely new lens. Your instincts awaken, and they tell you, this is no longer just about me. This is about them. You start to trust that voice inside. You start to protect them, even when it's uncomfortable, even when others don't see the problem. That change isn't always easy, but it's powerful. And it doesn't just stop there. It continues to show up in every area of your life, even in the most unexpected places. So here's also the story of my child's performance. It's a bit more layered. Let me give you some context here. My child was part of a performance, and as you know, children can be very competitive. Everyone wants to be first. It's part of just being a kid, right? But there was this issue. My child wasn't being placed where they wanted to be. Every time the children lined up, the teacher would place my child at the end of the row. At first, I didn't think much of it. I thought, okay, it's just a game, no big deal. But then one day I asked my child, how do you feel about being last? And my child said, I feel hurt. That was the moment. That was the shift. It wasn't about being first in line. It was about fairness. It was about my child being treated with respect. So the next time it happened, during the rehearsal, when the teacher tried to place my child at the end of the line, I stood up. I said, no, that's not fair. I couldn't just sit back and let this happen. My child had been taught to respect authority, to remain silent, but that didn't mean my child should be taken for granted. And so my child went first. Not because I wanted to make things easier, but because it was the right thing to do. Because I wasn't going to let anyone treat my child unfairly. These moments may seem small to others, but to me they were huge. They were my lioness moments. The shift in character that happens when you become a mother. It's profound. It's like your instincts, and you realize that you are capable of protecting, standing up for, and fiercely defending your child. You start seeing the world through a different lens, a lens that is protective, a lens that doesn't take nonsense. Motherhood changes your sense of self. It awakens a part of you that is both soft and fierce. You learn to trust your instincts, to stand up for your child, to protect them, even when it feels uncomfortable. Sometimes you don't realize how much you've changed until these moments come up. But when they do, it becomes clear. Motherhood brings out a strength you didn't know you had. A quiet, powerful strength. And so here we are. The woman you were before motherhood and the woman you become after. It's a transformation. One that's often hard to describe, but when you look back at the small moments, you realize just how much you've changed. You've become stronger, more willing to stand up for what's right. Thank you for joining me today on Home After Ambition. I hope this episode reminded you of the strength that lies within you, the fierce protectiveness that awakens when you become a mother. If you've had a similar experience, if you've recognized this shift in your own character, I'd love to hear about it. Don't forget to share your thoughts with me, and I'll see you next week for another episode.
Home After Ambition. Where driven women come home to themselves.